Just off the Devon coast, a team of archaeologists is discovering a relic of this new world. The wreck of a trading vessel that sank here 3,000 years ago.
What are we actually looking for?
We're looking for ingots, Neil. There's two sorts of ingots here. There's both copper and tin ingots have been found on this site.
And that's precisely the two metals that you need to make bronze.
That's right, yeah.
We're in 50 feet of water here. How do we find the cargo?
Find the cargo with a metal detector.
Exactly like the sort of thing you'd use in a farmer's field, isn't it?
It's exactly the same piece of kit, really.
Looks like an electric shock waiting to happen.
It does, doesn't it?
3, 2, 1, drop diver.
When the boat sank, it was laden with copper and tin, the valuable resources of the Bronze Age. The boat's timbers have long decayed, but some of its precious cargo still survives.
Nothing so far. I have been found in this area now, outside this is possible.
The Salcombe boat is evidence of an economy based on bronze and a modern and mobile social class, the metal dealers of their day.
I have to say, I'm finding this completely surreal, the metal detecting under 50 feet of water. It's all about keeping going. It takes a lot of time and a lot of work to find anything in this kind of environment. Neil, next time you'll trust your attention, I think he's found something.
One of the divers has got a signal.
There's two small copper ingots he's got there, but you can see how they just look like a pebble surrounding us. Look at that! Don't drop it, Neil. Look at this! It's what it's all about down here. That's what's all the trouble. It's absolutely unbelievable. I've suddenly come across copper 4,000 years ago.
So this is the first time that the contents of this bag have been in the open air.
That's right.
3,000 years.
That's right.
Look at that. Now that is unmistakable, isn't it? The heft of it, the weight, and the colour. So how much of this material have you recovered, or have the team
The
recovered?
team's recovered almost 300 ingots now, which come to a total of about 85 kilograms.
But it wasn't only raw metal that went down with the boat.
Neil, this is a sword that was found 2 or 3 dives ago now.
Now that is a bit more recognisable than a copper ingot. Was that being moved as metal, or was it there as a sword, a fighting weapon?
I think this is somebody's personal possession for defence of their boat and defence of the cargo.
The copper ingots are anonymous in a way, but a find like this is such a priceless personal belonging. It really speaks of a person, doesn't it? You can imagine that he would only willingly be parted from it along with his life.
That's right. Well, he may have lost his life at the same time as the sword.
By analysing samples of the excavated metal, scientists can discover more about the Salcombe wreck's cargo.
The analysis of what we've looked at so far from Salcombe suggests that that particular ingot did not come from Devon or Cornwall.
Copper contains an atomic signature that can reveal where it was mined.
We can link copper in Britain with a range of areas in the continent.
Trade in bronze wasn't confined to Britain. This was an international economy.
From the Alps, Brittany, down through central France, Spain, maybe even Portugal.
These
wee treasures here are some of the Fiskerton tools. They were deposited or discarded in Lincolnshire around 2,500 years ago. This is a hammerhead. Handle here. The most obvious point of interest is the wear on the business end. That lip has been caused because that hammer has been used repeatedly, pounding against a hard surface, probably used for hammering in iron nails, apart from anything else. This is a hand saw. It's broken due to corrosion, but this is the handle. It's made of antler, beautifully worked and polished with lovely detailing to make it an attractive object as well as a useful one. The blade has broken due to corrosion during 2,500 years. It's so thin, and some of that might be down to corrosion, but it would have been thin anyway because a saw blade, in order to work, has to be thin. Now, that begins to show the versatility of iron over bronze because you couldn't achieve that with cast bronze. So this is a job for iron. Possibly best of all is this one. Now, you don't even need me to say the word, really. But it's a file. And see how the cutting edges have been so carefully worked into that, cut into the metal. It's so modern. If someone was to show you this and say, this is from my great-grandfather's toolbox, you'd be forgiven for believing them. There's nothing different about it from the tools we use today, and yet it's 2,500 years old.
The time of crisis was becoming a distant memory as the population of Britain grew rapidly. Agricultural surplus lay at the heart of a newly emerging economy, and that depended heavily on iron.
Iron was a metal that could be hammered into all manner of shapes and forms, not just cast. And unlike bronze, it wasn't the preserve of some elite. Iron, instead, was the metal of the people, working tools for working men. All of that, combined with its strength and its widespread availability, was to transform our world and nudge us another step into the future.
Iron working became a part of village life right across Britain.
It's much better than the bronze because it's a little bit more elastic, so it's not going to snap if you hit something hard. And if it does bend, you can always straighten it again. If it breaks, you can weld the two pieces back together again. And the iron also, you can sharpen and keep putting an edge on, say for the sickle where you're cutting your corn or your hay. You can keep sharpening it. It's much more versatile.
Bronze casting remained a specialist art, but anyone could heat and reshape an iron tool.
It's that sound as well. It's knowing that that ringing sound would have been a permanent background noise.
Oh, yes.
For Iron Age village life.
Yeah, yes.
That ringing sound. It looks best just while there's still a light in it,
yes,
doesn't it? Because for the rest of the time it's just going to be cold metal, but for now it's got heartbeat.
You see it's dulling down and it's becoming utilitarian.
And such a simple, commonplace object.
Yes.
Sickle.
Yeah, just a sickle.
But at the moment it's got the magic, hasn't it?
The Celtic culture that came to represent an entire era might have had its genesis right here, in the continentally connected warrior elites of East Yorkshire.
So a warrior of the status, say, of the Kirkburn warrior, someone of that style and demeanour.
Absolutely, and he was buried just about 10 miles from here.
Okay, so he's part of this fashion.
Yes, and figures like that who maybe were skilled at fighting or had achieved something in their life, or maybe even through the manner of their death, were treated to special kinds of burials.
But the Yorkshire burials have revealed something else that was remarkable about this new culture. Because here, it seems, it was not only great warriors who were revered.
Our picture of ancient Britain will always be incomplete because often the evidence we find is of important men. The artefacts are often symbols of martial prowess. What's remarkable here in Yorkshire is that around 300 BC we start to find evidence of something that's been missing from the story so far, and that is important women. This is the skeleton of a woman who died at least in her late 40s, possibly even older than that. But for all that she was an older, mature woman, her teeth are in remarkably good shape, which suggests she had access to a good, even privileged diet. But much more revealing and fascinating than her mere bones are the circumstances in which she was buried. This woman was buried lying on or inside a chariot, and around her were also placed all the furniture for horse driving. Quite hard to describe these. I suppose they're the equivalent of hubcaps. Decoration that would have gone around the knobbly bit that sticks out from the wheel. These are parts of the bit that the horse would have in its mouth, through which the reins pass and which give the driver control over the horse's head. But also in this woman's grave are items altogether more mysterious, even magical. This metal cylinder, beautifully decorated with Celtic artwork. Now, it's completely sealed. You can't get into it, you can't open it. If it ever did contain anything, it must have been organic and very small, so that with the passage of millennia that has decayed and disappeared. Maybe it was some beans or seeds, so that it could be used as a ceremonial rattle. Perhaps even more powerful is this. It's been called a mirror. I suspect because in terms of its shape, that's exactly what it looks like. But for me, the word mirror downgrades this object, makes it seem trivial and to do with vanity. This, in its heyday, would have been highly polished iron, but even at its best, the reflection that it offered would always have been blurred. It's now suggested that items such as these were used not to reflect back our world, but to open a portal into a world beyond, the world of the ancestors. That by owning this and having access to it, you are able to communicate directly with the dead. So, with these items here, it's easy to understand that whoever this woman was, once upon a time, she really mattered. She was a woman of substance. She was revered, she was wise, and in her community, she was someone of real power. Look at that. It's a modern reconstruction of a building called a crannog, which is a large house built on a platform that sits above the waters of the loch. This would have been the home 2,000 years ago of a local chieftain. A building like that is about status and prestige. It's visible from miles around. You're essentially saying to people, here I am, and if you think you can take this from me, do your best.
In this world of Celtic tribes, leaders needed to be more than powerful warriors. They needed diplomatic skills and political nous too. And artefacts found here in Loch Tay bear testament to how Iron Age politics were conducted.
This is a small circular wooden plate recovered from the loch. In Iron Age Britain, status wasn't just about items of jewellery and personal adornment. It was about your ability to draw people to you. Men, fighting men who were loyal to you, who would do your bidding. And a key way of getting to them was, as they say, through their stomachs, the way to a man's heart. And so you have to picture a chieftain, perhaps the chieftain of the area, gathering men to him, and they would be fed by him to show that he was a big man. So the story here from this little wooden plate is that feasting was a key part of power broking in late Iron Age Britain.
Barry Andryan, who helped create the crannog, is an expert in feasting. And many of the same wild plants that would have been eaten 2,000 years ago still grow around the area today.
They didn't have access to the kind of vegetables that we have today. Nothing like onions and potatoes and our kind of staples. So foraging would have been a very, very important source of food for them. There are lots of edible greens here. Things like chickweed and sorrel, which is a lemony taste. Let's see what you think.
It's got a very definite flavour.
This is sorrel. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to put that in the stew, just to give it a kick.
Yeah, there's a real acidy, citrusy. That's a strong flavour.
The scale and variety of food offered by a chieftain would have been a mark of his status, and by extension, his power. Over the hearth, a masterpiece of decorative wrought ironwork would have supported a spit roast and proclaimed the standing of its owner.
This is an example or a representation of a fire dog. And the fire dog would have been a high status, really classy piece of art. And you can see the curve of the back of the head. It's maybe a horse or a bull with the horns sticking out, or even maybe a wild boar. But obviously something important, something symbolic. And if you look at the craftsmanship, these are meant to represent wealth and power. So it's another symbol of status.
It's food for show, isn't it? It's food as a performance.
Absolutely. They definitely weren't hiding.
The British possessed a weapon they had invented, one that was desired throughout Europe. The long, iron slashing sword.
The lesson there is don't stand still if a man on a horse is coming at you with a sword. At least duck.
Andy Dean is an expert in ancient combat.
If you're on horseback, obviously you're coming down in those vulnerable areas higher up. If we were on foot, then I would be looking for vulnerable targets, say down by your knee, the tendons of the back of the knee. As soon as I've hit that, it's basically an execution after that. So you choose your targets.
So even on the ground, you'd still be chopping down,
try not to chop too much. I would try and keep the sword moving all the time so that I retained energy, so that that movement would keep it going. So if I was coming for your leg, it would be cut, sliced through, and then as you went down, then I would the coup de grace.
Can I?
Of course you may.
Hold it, yeah.
I could see your eyes lighting up.
I want to hack at something.
Well, we can organise that. We can get something big and solid for you to have a play with.
I fear I might do an air shot.
Do not let go of the sword.
And I can only use this thing about I want to do that.
Honestly, if you have a couple of sort of swipes over the top.
Yeah.
And a bit like a golf swing.
Yeah.
And then literally as you're taking the top of a dandelion off, whoop 'em.
Right. OK. I think I might be a natural backhand, actually.
There you go, then.
Nah. OK. Oh! Oh, she doesn't even slow down.
No, absolutely stunning.
Wow.
Have another go.
But for all their swords, chariots and spears, the British were driven back. Their last hope was to mount a final defence on the north bank of the Thames.
Over there, where those trees are today, the Thames opened out into a wide, marshy ford that was just shallow enough to walk across. Now, only that ford stood between Rome and the British heartlands. The British chief assembled his forces here on the north shore, and he lined the bank with sharpened stakes, preparation for an ambush. Really, though, the best hope was that the Romans would never find this place, and the river would act as a natural barrier, holding them back. But with the help of their new British allies, the invaders were here in no time, and the end game was in sight. It's strange to think that today you can relax here with a drink, surrounded by this very British scene. Because it was here 2,000 years ago that British history hung in the balance. The Roman army just kept on coming, wave after wave of soldiers. The British ambush was in vain, and once again they were forced to abandon their position and flee. With the country laid wide open to the invaders, the chiefs in the surrounding area knew what was coming, and one by one they defected, becoming sworn allies of Rome.
The British leader Cassivelaunus and his closest followers put up one last stand, but were massacred. This was more than the end of an era. It was the end of Britain's ancient prehistory, unfolding in the face of an unstoppable force: Rome and the modern world. After such a decisive victory, it's tempting to imagine Britain falling under outright Roman rule. But that's not what happened. With pledges of allegiance from the tribes of the southeast, it seems Caesar was satisfied. And after just 3 months in the country, he left, taking his entire army with him. The Britain he left behind was by no means completely Roman, but it wasn't completely British anymore either, and her people would never be the same again.
You all right?
Yeah, lead on.
Okay, here we go.
Alison Sheridan, a specialist in prehistoric artefacts, is showing me one house that's so well preserved, people aren't usually allowed inside.
Gosh, it's not the easiest place to get into, is it?
No, but it's cosy.
So what would life have been like for Scarabray residents, do you think?
It would have been pretty comfortable by the standards of the age, because you've got this wonderful central hearth. So it may have been dark because of the roof, but it would have been warm.
Okay.
They've also got convenience. They have a toilet.
How do you know that's a toilet and not a storage space?
Well, there's actually a drain underneath it, and actually they did find poo.
Oh, really? Oh, so the hard evidence is there?
Yes.
Remarkably, these houses also contained artefacts, the precious possessions of the people who were living here 5,000 years ago.
Never found anything like this in my entire life. Miserable bits of broken stone was all I ever found. So what have we got?
Anything but miserable bits of stone. These are absolutely amazing.
What are they generally called if you were to group them as a class of find?
Enigmatic carved stone objects.
All right.
Only because archaeologists haven't worked out exactly what they are.
And in the absence of materials that we would consider precious, like gold and silver, I suppose these have to be the equivalent of it because of the time that they represent and the skill that they represent.
That's right, because we're in an age that's well before the earliest metal.
Yeah.
So the stone itself is not intrinsically valuable, but as an object, it meant a lot.
And what about the rest of them, these pieces of jewellery or...?
Yeah, in fact, they found something like 8,000 beads in this structure.
In this house?
Yes.
Right. So, on a very practical level, it says that someone's got the time to do this,
Yes.
rather than being out growing, herding, whatever. Someone is able to set aside part of their day, or maybe all of their time, to specialising.
Absolutely,
And being provided with everything else they need by the rest of the village.
That's right.
These are just wonders. Which one can I have?
I'll take them all. We know where you live.
But as well as jewellery and carved stones, this house also revealed a darker secret.
Intriguingly, 2 adult women's skeletons were found underneath the bed, uniquely.
You mean below floor
Absolutely.
level?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's as if during the lifetime of the house, they lived here, they died here, they were buried here.
And they were put under the bed.
It's like Granny under the bed. It was a house for the living, and it's also a house for the dead.
The precious artefacts and the presence of human remains might mean that these houses were special. No one can be sure, but the people who lived here might not have been ordinary farmers, but some of the earliest priests of a new religion. Today, the relics of Roman Britain still lie buried right beneath our feet. Here in central London, construction work is uncovering fragments of a city that once stood here almost 2,000 years ago.
This building is completely derelict, as you can see, and it's shortly going to be, well, almost razed to the ground and replaced by something new. Hey. But at the moment, there's just this brief window of time that archaeologists can take advantage of and dig deep into the foundations. And what they're revealing deep down here is a rare glimpse of Roman London.
Alison Telfer and her team are uncovering the preserved remains of streets and buildings. This is planned urban development.
Everything about this is amazing, Al. It's so recognisable. This is Roman timber.
Yes, and you can see the skill of the workman who made this. The timbers survive very well because of the sort of damp conditions, and that's really helped, obviously, preserve it.
In just a few generations, Roman London had grown into Britain's most important trading town. What's being discovered here are some of the shops and workshops that stood right at its very heart.
Is that a fence line there?
It is a fence line dividing this building from the one over there. And then heading that way, there might have been shop frontages, and about 20 metres that way is probably the Roman road.
When you use words like shop frontages, it suddenly sounds modern and recognisable.
Well, at the time it would have been. You probably could come and get your latest leather shoes here, maybe get them, made to measure.
It fascinates me that life down here is so vivid.
Yes, it makes people real, doesn't it?
Look at this. This is a bag of leather pieces that have been excavated from here. How recognisable is that? That's the sole of a leather Roman shoe. Look at that. And you can see on the sides the holes for stitching. And even more interesting in a way, given that we're in a workshop, is a piece like this, which is an offcut of leather. That's been cut from a larger piece during the shaping and the making of something. And it's a find like this that shows that shoes aren't just being sold from these premises, they're actually being made here. And it still smells, ever so faintly, of leather. That's one surround, another 6 to go.
Colchester was the first Roman retirement town, where old soldiers could settle with their own plots of land. Its racetrack, or circus, was discovered by archaeologist Philip Crummy.
What we've found is the only circus known in Roman Britain.
comparing it to these modern buildings, it's colossal even by modern standards. I mean, look at this massive industrial unit there, and the circus dwarfs it.
Well, this is the largest Roman building that we know of in Britain. This is the real deal. This is a giant thing.
It's a giant.
Despite knowing its layout, only fragments of the original structure have ever been excavated.
Gosh, so it's half a kilometre long, and we're taking out just this slot here.
That's right.
Inches beneath the ground, evidence of building work still remains from the massive stadium.
Right, let's fire this up.
1,800 years ago, Romans and Britons, rich and poor, citizens and slaves, would have shared in one of the greatest sporting spectacles of the ancient world. A chariot race.
What you'd hear is the sound of the chariots going 7 times round the central barrier, and the cheers of up to 15,000 people yelling and screaming. This was the modern equivalent of football.
Right. So it's mass entertainment, almost on an industrial scale.
This is where you come for a bit of excitement.
So that's mortared masonry. Oh yeah, look at that. Sit there, that mortar coming up there.
Oh yeah.
That's the start of Roman stuff. It's a bit
look at that.
Brick. Roman brick there.
These are the foundation remains of one of the greatest stadiums in Northern Europe.
Under a car park. It's good, isn't it?
But at Colchester, the racetrack wasn't the only mass entertainment on offer. People could also get a glimpse of some of the sporting superstars of the age. Gladiators.
This piece of pottery, this vase, encapsulates so much of what we think about the Roman world. It was found in Colchester, near the circus. It's widely regarded as one of the finest pieces of Roman period pottery ever found in Northern Europe. These two men here are baiting what looks to our eyes like a dog, but it's actually a bear. And that is so much how we think about Roman sport, Roman entertainment, how it was all wound up in blood and cruelty. But it's not just animals that are on the receiving end of the violence. On this side of the vase are 2 gladiators. This one here is a class of gladiator called a secutor. He has armour, a helmet, a shield, and classically a sword. His opponent, however, is in all kinds of trouble. He should be armed with a net and a trident, but he has lost both. But what makes this vase so fascinating is that this isn't just an abstract, notional depiction of gladiatorial combat. These people have names: Valentinius and Memnon. Now, Valentinius was an international superstar of his age. He was attached to a legion in Germany, so perhaps he was brought over to Colchester, to Britain, to the provinces, to entertain the locals here and give them a taste of European glamour. Nothing like this could have been seen, even conceived of, by the native British tribes, not at least until they had contact with Rome.